Hi, everybody. Why did I turn my neck like this? Oh my God. This is AJ Marie, host of AJ Marie TV and founder of Keepers of Nostalgia. I am super excited to show you guys the very first interview on AG Marie TV. This week I had the pleasure of interviewing Miss Ivy Karlsgodt for AG Marie TV. She is the founder and the artist behind Ace of Shades. Ace of Shades is her small business. She makes vintage inspired lampshades. Gorgeous. I've been following her following her business for almost a year probably. And as I described in the interview, I remember just like being on Instagram and scrolling and just seeing this beautiful lampshade being hand stitched. And of course, she had some type of big band song playing in the background. So I was like, follow, this is my person. This is somebody that I need to follow. Without further ado, I'm going to show you guys, or we're going to go ahead and move on to the interview. Hope you enjoy, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to like and share as well. Bye bye. All right, hello everybody. My name is AG Marie. I am the host of AG Marie TV and founder of Keepers of Nostalgia. I am here with Miss Ivy from Ace of Shade. She is the founder, the craftswoman behind this beautiful organ company that she has. You can go to aceofshades.co. All the information is going to be available in the description. So, Ivy, could you just kind of introduce yourself for yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so I run a small business called Ace of Shades, and I make kind of vintage inspired lampshades, sort of Victorian through 1940s, kind of that kind of era, inspiration wise. And I work out of my apartment. It's my little studio. Yeah.
All right. And I think I've been following you for about almost a year now. And of course, it was like suggested and on Instagram. I think Benny Goodman or somebody was playing. I was like, oh, what's this? And I just saw you making the lampshades, and I was like, follow immediately. But before I get into like the next question, I want to first congratulate you and shout you out because you recently got freaking Stevie Nicks to like
Yes. Yeah.
license photos of your lampshades. Like, please, please, please tell us how that went as much as you can tell us.
Yeah, totally. It's yeah, definitely the coolest thing that's ever happened to me and will ever happen to me. So that was really exciting. But yeah, the visuals designer reached out to me and was just like, "Hey, I'm designing the concert visuals for Stevie Nicks' upcoming tour." This was about a year ago at this point. And we'd love to just license some of your photos for use in her backdrop. And I was like, "What?" Like,
Right.
I didn't even think to
Yeah.
dream of that. That sounds great. Um, so yeah, I mean, they just licensed these photos. She sent me kind of her like an example design of kind of how it would look. Like it's kind of a collage situation, and it looked so cool. And they licensed the photos. And I'm really excited because I missed the the concert when I live in Brooklyn, and when she was performing at Madison Square Garden last year, I missed the concert. I like looked into getting tickets, and they were just like, really expensive. I was like, okay, I guess I will not be going to that. Um, but then she's performing this week in Long Island. It's like an hour and a half train ride away from me, and the
Okay.
the concert visuals designer snagged 2 free tickets for me. So I'm actually going on Wednesday to see it. So I'm really excited. My mom is coming. So
Oh,
it'll be
go.
really cool. So, but yeah, it's very like when I was a kid, I mean I still love Stevie Nicks, but when I was like 5, I was really obsessed with Stevie Nicks. I don't know. I was like, this is the coolest and most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And I love this music. And I would do like little performances for my family and stuff with like a shawl draped on me. So it's really cool
Oh,
because her style like totally influenced my design style, you know, so it's kind of like very full circle and cool that they're, you know, they're being used in her concert. So yeah, I'm really excited to see it. I found the designer wasn't able to get a lot of like any photos for me because she is based in the UK and like, you know, she can't take them herself. And she had been trying to get them, but I found some like I found like a full concert video on YouTube of you know her tour from her tour, and I like watched the whole thing like to try to get like a screenshot of when they pop up. And I finally got some, so I finally like posted about. I didn't want to post about it until I had the photos. So that was really exciting because I was like, wow, it's real. It's definitely real. It's really happened. So yeah, it'll be cool to see them in real life this week.
I'm sure. So excited for you for that.
Thank you.
So you just kind of mentioned like a little bit of what I was going to ask next. I was going to get you to talk about your inspiration. You said the ranges from like Victorian era to 1940s. Do you like see like previous designs and say I want to make something like that, or is it just like looking at trees outside and being like, I wonder if I can make a design similar to this? Like, what's your process for finding inspiration?
So, it depends. Like sometimes I'm starting with a certain fabric that I found that I really like, or a frame shape that I really want to work with. So sometimes I'll be starting like with one thing like that, or I'll start with a certain color palette I want to work with. It kind of just depends. And like I said, I definitely pull a lot from that kind of time period, that style of lampshades from that time period. But most of the time I'm not too concerned about making anything like historically accurate unless it's requested or unless I guess feel like it. But most of the time I try not to limit myself really, you know, if there's like a kind of like funky lace or something I find that would not exist in that era, I'm not gonna, you know, limit myself. But yeah, I find inspiration all over the place, like color palettes and things. Like I don't know, I'll see like somebody's outfit on the street and be like, whoa, those are really two interesting colors together. Like I bet I could design a lampshade using that. And I've been very into using unique color combinations, and I kind of don't believe in clashing. Like I don't think it's real. I think as long as you balance it right, any two colors can go together. So I've been trying to like push the limits of that a little bit. So yeah.
Okay, so next question is, so from the outside looking in, like the society that we're in now, or just the world in general, you go to the store and get a lampshade, Walmart, Amazon, Target, or something like that. I haven't met anybody like you in this, of course, I'm going to say in this lifetime as if I've lived like 50 lifetimes or something. But would you say, from your perspective, or on my end, I think that it seems that making lampshades from or handmade seems to be out of fashion, or it might be a dying art. Am I correct in that perception, or is it just like alive and well? Do you know plenty of people who make shades as well?
First of all, I'm really sorry if you could hear my cat trying to like get into this room. I don't know if you can hear any weird sounds in the background, but yeah, one of them is trying to get in here. But yeah, it's definitely kind of a dying art. I mean, it used to be, obviously in the era where that style was popular, it was much more common. And I mean, sewing in general was just a lot more commonly done by people. But it's had kind of phases, like in the like 80s and 90s, it was kind of a trend again to make this style of lampshade. Like it kind of just became a little trend, and maybe now becoming a little bit of a trend again. So it's never like fully died out, but it's definitely it's very niche, you know. So the community is pretty small, but yeah, a lot of other lampshade makers who are I've learned a lot from, that are, you know, have been making them for like 30 years or whatever, they started, you know, in that kind of like that wave of popularity when they kind of became a trend again to make them. And so yeah, and now I have people asking me, for tips and stuff on how to get started. So it's kind of fun to like be part of that, chain of passing down knowledge about something like this that's so niche and yeah.
Okay. All right. So now I have a somewhat of a cliche question, but if you could give, kind of falling back on what you just said, if you could give anybody advice, that's interested in making lampshades, as advice on anything, like this is going to be something that's going to take a lot of time, or
Mhm.
or if you just go with what you like, and how would you advise and counsel someone who's like, this is something that I want to do, but how do I start? Where do I
Mhm.
start?
Yeah. So um, my background before I started making lampshades a few years ago was I worked professionally in the costuming industry. So I used to make costumes for like Broadway film TV. So I had a sewing background, and I started making them during the pandemic when I was laid off and just stuck at home and kind of wanted to like redecorate and whatever. Uh, and I learned a lot of the techniques from these instructional DVDs made by Mary Maxwell. She sells them on her website. I think it's lampshadelady.com, but it's like I think there are a few of them. These instructional DVDs that she's made, and they're like very homemade, but there's like so sweet, and she gives, I don't know, she's a really good teacher, I think, and I learned a lot of my techniques there, so that's a really good place to start, just as far as like the process, the steps, what kind of materials you can use and everything. And um she teaches some advanced techniques like the pleating and all that too, but once you get the basic process down. And so that's what I recommend to people when they ask how they can learn. I would love to do like an online course eventually, but that's a that's for a later date. So um but yeah, I haven't, there's not a ton of resources out there. Like I don't have any books I can recommend. Like there are probably a couple out there, but they're, I don't know about them. Like
Right.
there's just,
On
yeah, it's
eBay
kind
for
of
like $5,000.
yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I learned a lot from those DVDs, and then also just connecting with other lampshade makers who've been doing it for a long time. Like there's a handful of them on Instagram that I've connected with and have learned a lot from, gotten a lot of tips and tricks and everything. So um yeah, I mean, that probably applies to like any kind of craft you want to get into, connect with the community. And um for the most part, people are like, especially with something like this that's sort of a dying art, like I think people are usually happy to help. um you know they're happy to pass down their knowledge on. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I have one final question for you. So we've got Stevie Nicks out the way now. Who's the next person that needs to like DM you right now and say, I need you to design something for me right now? Who's the next famous person?
um I would really love to make a lampshade for Dita Von Teese. She actually
Yes.
follows me on Instagram, and I remember when I got that notification, I was like, oh my god.
Right.
He's follows me on Instagram. But I like love her house. I'm obsessed with her whole style, and I've watched her like her. I think it's Architectural Digest that does these, the like house tour
Yes.
celebrity house
Yes.
tour videos.
Hmm.
I've watched hers like 20 times. I'm just obsessed with it. So yeah, and I think I could make something really cool for her. So that would be
Yeah.
I would love that.
No, I need to go find that later because for whatever reason I've skipped her.
You gotta watch that
But
one. It's
yeah, I love those. That's all that I have. Again, thank you so much for
sure.
doing this.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, this is going to be on YouTube, and hope to like interact in the future. Hope to at some point get a lampshade myself, and I hope Dita Valenti somehow comes across this and DMs you. So again, thank you, and you have a wonderful night.
Thank you so much. You too. All right.
Bye.
Bye.